So QBs, we both have a different take on it this year, Jack and myself. Mm-hmm. Jack, I think we both can agree Aaron Rodgers is our clear number one.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is definitely top of the pack.
I think his rushing ability, not only the rushing ability, but the passing ability, but if he stays healthy, he's a QB 1-2 almost guaranteed.
Yeah, he's just absolutely disgusting. It doesn't even matter who his receivers are. He's one of the best in the pocket and outside the pocket QBs I've ever seen. So, Rodgers definitely QB number one.
All right. And then when we go to a tier 2, this is where Jack and I have some disagreements. I kind of have a bigger tier 2, not really in a specific order, but I mean, you can make your own adjustments whether you like rushing quarterbacks or high floor guys. I'm a big rushing quarterback guy. So what I have here is Watson, Wilson, Newton, Breeze, Stafford, Brady. So it's 6 quarterbacks, 3 are rushers, 3 are kind of depending on their rocket arms and good decision making. How do you break those apart if you do, or do you agree with me bundling them all up?
So I'll go over my tier 1. Obviously Rodgers, but I also had Brady in there, and then also a sleeper, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, I think, is going to get the most points for fantasy quarterbacks this season. So definitely keep an eye on Watson.
You want to hear a fun stat on Deshaun Watson before we move on?
Let's hear it.
Last season, before he was hurt, Deshaun Watson threw a touchdown on 9.3% of his throws.
Jeez.
To compare that to something, when Peyton Manning broke the record for most touchdowns during a season, he threw a touchdown every 9.9 passes.
Uh-oh.
So if you were to stretch out Watson's season last year, he would have broke the record thrown for most touchdowns in a game, or most touchdowns in a season, but also very efficient at it as well.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Unfortunately, hate to see him go down last year with the torn ACL. If he could be smarter about how often he runs from the pocket, obviously that's one thing that mobile quarterbacks need to do and figure out, is kind of find that good ground to where should they stay in the pocket, should they run, and make smart decisions based on that. But for that reason, I have him in my tier 1, along with obviously Tom Brady. I don't need any explanation for that, clearly. And then we talked about Rodgers. So those are my tier 1 guys. And then tier 2, I have 3 guys. So we got Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. Drew Brees, I mean, throws for over 4,000 yards almost every single year. Dude's a beast. Doesn't really need any explanation either. He's been in the league for a while. Knows what he's doing. Russell Wilson, quick on his feet. Like you mentioned, one of those guys who does get you, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 40 to 50 yards rushing per game, maybe even a TD rush, which will get you that 6 points. And
Russell Wilson last year, after week 7, had 250 fantasy points. That was number 1 for QBs after week 7. And I think what you said is because he's got that rushing upside. Every game he has the opportunity to get in the end zone as well as give you 30 to 50 kind of yards rushing, because the offense depends on him to move the football.
Yeah. Definitely.
And speaking on Drew Brees, I will say keep a caution on Drew Brees. Last season with the addition of Kamara, it kind of changed everything. I know he can catch the ball out of the backfield, but only 4 times last year was Drew Brees inside the top 12 quarterbacks for the week. He did finish at a QB9, but only 4 times he's finishing as a starting QB in standard 12-team leagues. So I think just keep an eye on him. I think his numbers will get back to how his old career was, throwing high in the 3,000s and 30-plus touchdowns. But it is something to note that when they draft this rookie running back and it shows a bunch of success, he might not get the same kind of passing numbers as he previously had.
It's a good point. I never looked at that. Also, so my tier 2, like I said, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and then Andrew Luck. So last year, Luck was out. He's coming back this year. I think a lot of people forget how freaking good this guy is.
The guy was a beast.
He had no offensive line and went to the AFC Championship. Lost.
Deflategate.
There you go. Deflategate started.
That's how long ago this guy played. Just so everybody put that in perspective. That's how long ago he played.
Yeah, and in 2016 he threw for over 4,000 yards.
I have an update.
An update.
Uh-oh. Little League World Series update.
Uh-oh.
First pitch of the game, we take Yaya. Yeah.
Woo!
Boom. So we didn't give him any runs in the top of the first, bottom of the first. First pitch we saw. Bing.
Launch mode.
Yep. All right. Anyways, continue. Sorry about that.
I was at Andrew Luck. So, like I said, in 2016, he threw for over 4,000 yards. His completion percentage was pretty good, 63.5%. And his QBR was good as well, which was 96.4. Threw for 31 TDs, only 13 picks. That was back in 2016. He was out all last year. I think he's healthy and fresh. There was questions about his shoulder because he had to get surgery on that, but same kind of reasoning we had behind David Johnson. It's his shoulder, so yeah, it matters a lot, but it's not like he tore an ACL or something where you're seriously cautious and like not really knowing if Andrew Luck is 100% healthy. But I think the eye test, seeing him deliver these footballs like he used to, now I am a lot, I guess, confirms my beliefs of if Andrew Luck could play in the NFL like he used to.
Yeah, I'm going to take the wait and see approach on Andrew Luck. Before we move on, Cam Newton's definitely in the mix of the top 8 quarterbacks. I think, as much as I dislike him, I think the ability to run the football, the pass option kind of thing they got working with Christian McCaffrey, and Norv Turner's their new offensive coordinator, I think that's pretty big for his production as well as Christian McCaffrey's. Big-time heavy run guy. So inside the 5, inside the 10, we're going to see a lot of options where Cam can run the football and get in the end zone. All right, so you spoke about Luck. Underneath that tier, I do want to talk about Carson Wentz, and I have Big Ben kind of near him, not near the same production, but kind of lumped together. Mm-hmm. Carson Wentz, let's pretend he's 100% healthy to start week 1. Where does he go? Is he a top 10 guy? Or would you consider him more of a 12, 13, 14 guy?
He's for sure a top 10 guy if he's healthy week 1.
Yeah, I think there's just too many weapons out there for him not to be.
Yeah, he's definitely a top 10 quarterback in the NFL for sure, but he isn't going to be able, or he's not going to be the starter week 1 for the Eagles, so that's definitely going to drop him a lot of spots in the draft. So I personally have Carson Wentz in my 4th tier, strictly because he's not going to be their week 1 starter.
Somebody I want to add to that you guys need to make your decision on, because if you believe Matthew Stafford is better than Carson Wentz, which I have him down just because of the amount of production, then I think Stafford goes in tier 2 before Carson Wentz. But that's just me. Tier 4, who else you got?
So I'm going to go back to my tier 3, which was just kind of like 4 guys. You mentioned Matt Stafford, really like him. Cam Newton in my 3rd tier. Phillip Rivers and Big Ben. Those 4 kind of stand out to me as better than the rest of the pack. Not quite as an upside as Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, or Andrew Luck. But also, they're a lot higher than guys like, Carson Wentz because he's not starting, Alex Smith, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo. So those 4 stand out. But then after those in my tier 3, then it drops down to tier 4, which basically just drops off. And those are the guys, like I said, Alex Smith, Tyrod, Wentz, Jimmy G.
Before we break down your thoughts on those bottom guys, kind of what we're saying here as a draft strategy is if you're not reaching for your Rodgers, your Watson, your Wilsons, your Newtons, guys you might think are ahead of them like Brady and Breeze, then I think we just kind of let the Wentzes, the Lucks, the Big Bens, the Phil Rivers kind of go, because we're okay grabbing a guy in one of these bottom tiers, a Mahomes, a Mariota, a Matt Ryan, a Jimmy G, Jared Goff.
Okay, even if in your draft you're the very last person to pick a quarterback, like...
Well, let's just take it. 12-team standard league. Mm-hmm. So take the top 12 names out. And you're looking at Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Patrick Mahomes, Marcus Mariota. Now, I'm okay with one of those guys drafting them 6 rounds, 7 rounds later than a Wilson, a Watson, a Rodgers. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I 100% agree. See, I was going to ask you, what would you say is your round where you're going to start going after a QB?
See, or would you say I'm a little drastic in this. I'm going to wait until either the second to last or the third to last round. Now, I'm going to grab him along with my kicker because, in my opinion, once you take away Rodgers, Watson, Wilson, Newton, Brees, Stafford, those guys who other teams in your league will reach on. Mm-hmm. So when they're drafting Rodgers in 4 and Brady and Watson in 5 and 6 round, you should be drafting running backs and receivers like we've already spoke about because of how deep the position is. So that being said, I'm going to let you reach on Rodgers, Breeze, guys like that. I'm going to wait to get a Mahomes, a Mariota, late as possible. And if not, that's okay. I can still stream free agent quarterbacks based off their matchups every single week because the production level from quarterback 6 to quarterback 13 is only 4 points a week,
If
5
that.
points a week.
Yeah,
and I can make that up in receivers, running backs, tight ends.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm not drafting a QB. I was gonna ask you this. What would you say is your round where you're telling yourself, all right, I'm not gonna draft a QB before this round? I was thinking, let's see, how many rounds are there?
Well, you're gonna go running backs, receivers, running backs and receivers. So you got at least the first 8 picks where you're drafting at least 3-4 running backs, at least 3-4 receivers. And then by then, you're kind of looking at a group like Stafford, Wentz, Luck, and Big Ben. And I think if you let 4 more rounds kind of go by and you grab a tight end and then one more backup, maybe that's when you go for quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm telling myself round 10. Round 10 is not
10 or
drafting a
11.
QB before round 10.
I like that. Anything else to say about this bottom half of quarterbacks? Or any notes? Like, who do you like if you had to pick one for the listeners to stand out that's somebody they're going to target in the 14th, 15th round?
Ooh, that's a good question. Dak Prescott, I don't like.
I don't like Dak as well. I think that team's a big cross-off in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What about Jared Goff?
Jared Goff, that would probably be the guy. I'd say above Andy Dalton. I mean, Andy Dalton's he's been bad forever. Derek Carr, Blake Bortles, Case Keenum. I would have to say I'd take Jared Goff over those guys. They got a dynamic offense. Sean McVay
Lots
knows
of weapons.
Sean McVay knows exactly what to run that best fits Jared Goff. I think both of them work really, really well together.
And guys like Bortles, Keenum, even Derek Carr, I don't think their teams depend on him as much. I think the Raiders are going to go to that run-heavy offense, and Jacksonville does not depend on Blake Bortles to make plays, so we don't get much fantasy production. Same as Case Keenum. I think they're going to kind of hide him and kind of play a run-style, heavy defense type style football. So I think we're looking for guys like Jared Goff, if a Jimmy G falls, if a Mariota falls, guys with explosive offense, lots of talent, lots of weapons around him.
Yeah, and you mentioned Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to be hit or miss. So he's either going to be handing the ball off a lot in Gruden's new offense, which isn't going to get him that many points, or the Raiders are going to change the whole entire offense around, do something completely different that no one's expecting from John Gruden, and Derek Carr's going to have a great season. So I think he's either going to do really well or he's not going to.
I think we can agree that if we're looking at round 15, 16, 14, even if we already have a quarterback and we feel confident in our position players, I think a guy like Derek Carr in the last round of a draft, because I have seen more drafts than not where he falls, I think it's an okay pickup, so we can kind of wait and see in the first 5-6 weeks of the season, and if we like him, we could shop around our first round or our first pick at quarterback, or shop Derek Carr around with how impressive he's been to start the season. So I think Derek Carr might be worth a flyer, maybe, but I would definitely go Goff, Jimmy G, Matt Ryan ahead of him.
Yeah, if I have Derek Carr, he's my backup.
Yeah. All right. So that kind of wraps up quarterbacks for us.